So, chapter 9, beyond happiness and unhappiness, there is peace. The higher good beyond good and bad. Is there a difference between happiness and inner peace? Yes. Happiness depends on conditions being perceived as positive. Inner peace does not. Is it not possible to attract only positive conditions into our life? If our attitude and our thinking are always positive, we would manifest only positive events and situations, wouldn't we? Do we truly know what is positive and what is negative? Do you have the total picture? There have been many people for whom limitation, failure, loss, illness, or pain in whatever form turned out to be their greatest teacher. It taught them to let go of false self images and superficial ego dictated goals and desires. It gave them depth, humility, and compassion. It made them more real. Whenever anything negative happens to you, there is a deep lesson concealed within it. Although you may not see it at that time, even a brief illness or an accident can show you what is real and unreal in your life, what ultimately matters and what doesn't. Seen from a higher perspective, conditions are always positive. To be more precise, they are neither positive nor negative. They are as they are. When you live in complete acceptance of what is, which is the only sane way to live, there is no good or bad in your life anymore. There is only a higher good which includes the bad. Seen from the perspective of the mind, however, there is a good bad, like dislike, love hate. Hence, in the book of Genesis, it is said that Adam and Eve were no longer allowed to dwell in paradise when they ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. This sounds to me like denial and self deception. When something dreadful happens to me or someone close to me, accident, illness, pain, or some kind of or death, I can pretend that it isn't bad, but the fact remains that it is bad. So why deny it? You are not pretending anything. You are allowing it to be as it is. That's all. This allowing to be takes you beyond the mind with its resistance patterns that create the positive negative polarities. It is an essential aspect of forgiveness. Forgiveness of the present is even more important than forgiveness of the past. If you forgive every moment, allow it to be as it is, then there will be no accumulation or resentment that needs to be forgiven at some later time. Remember that we are not talking about happiness here. For example, when a loved one has just died or you feel your own death approaching, you cannot be happy. It is impossible, but you can be at peace. There may be sadness and tears, but provided that you have relinquished resistance, underneath the sadness, you will feel a deep serenity, a stillness, a sacred presence. This is the emanation of being. This is inner peace, the good that has no opposite. So, when we are talking about being in the now, being in the present moment, it is when we have complete acknowledgement and acceptance of what is as it is. So then there is no duality, See, because what is good or what is bad is your perception, and your perception of something which is good can be somebody else's perception of bad. If it's raining outside, that's a common thing. You can say, wow, it's raining, lovely, I love to enjoy the rain. Whereas the other person can also say for the same rain, why is it raining? I had to go somewhere. I don't like this rain. So good or bad is your own perception. The reality, the truth is as it is. It's a fact. It's a reality. But हमारा mind उसको जो meaning देता है, we try to live our life through that. That is where the issue comes. That is where we need to separate ourselves from our mind, because mind एक acceptance नहीं लाता है, mind एक attachment भी create करता है. I'm not saying attachment is good or bad, but it, if you are in total acceptance, then it is as it is. फिर आपको कोई वो नहीं, it's not dependent, it is not condition based. ये होगा तो मैं ऐसे करूंगा, ये होगा तो मैं खुश होऊंगा, ये होगा तो मेरे को ये हो जाएगा. That's always condition. And whenever you reach that condition, you graduated to a next level, you raise the bar. You raise the bar each and every time you get to that. And that's a never ending thing. But inner peace, your total acknowledgement, your total acceptance of whatever is happening to you, good, bad, ugly, anything, accepting it or acknowledging it first for whatever is as it is. कोई ifs buts नहीं है, कोई judgment नहीं है, कोई expectation नहीं है, कोई criticism नहीं है, कोई comparison नहीं है. It is as it is. That is where you then eventually accept the death, because eventually if you are born, you will die one day. That is the reality. But what dies is just this body. The soul is eternal. It lives all throughout. Yes, the uniform has a life. This body on this school of earth definitely has a life. 60, 70, 80, 100, 120, 150, depending the way you want to manifest that. What if it is a situation that I can do something about? How can I allow it to be and change it at the same time? Do what you have to do. In the meantime, accept what is. Since mind and resistance are synonymous, acceptance immediately frees you from mind dominance and thus reconnects you with being. As a result, the usual ego motivations for doing, fear, greed, control, defending, or feeding the false sense of self, will cease to operate. An intelligence much greater than the mind is now in charge. And so a different quality of consciousness will flow into your doing. Accept whatever comes to you, woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs. This was written 2000 years ago by Marcus Aurelius, one of those exceedingly rare humans who possessed worldly power as well as wisdom. It seems that most people need to experience a great deal of suffering before they will relinquish resistance and accept before they will forgive. As soon as they do, one of the greatest miracles happens, the awakening of being. Consciousness through what appears as evil, the transmutation of suffering into inner peace. The ultimate effects of all the evil and suffering in the world is that it will force humans into realizing who they are beyond name and form. I repeat, the ultimate effect of all the evil and suffering in the world is that it will force humans into realizing who they are beyond name and form. Thus, what we perceive as evil from our limited perspective is actually part of the higher good that has no opposite. This, however, does not become true for you except through forgiveness. Until that happens, evil has not been redeemed and therefore remains evil. Through forgiveness, which essentially means recognizing the insubstantiality of the past and allowing the present moment to be as it is, the miracle of transformation happens not only within but also without. A silent space of intense presence arises both in you and around you. Whoever or whatever enters that field of consciousness will be affected by it, sometimes visibly and immediately, sometimes at a deeper level with visible changes appearing at a later time. You dissolve discord, heal pain, dispel unconsciousness without doing anything, simply by being and holding that frequency of intense presence. So whenever you are in a situation where you feel that something is not good or something is evil is happening to you, or whatever is your reaction to that, but you know
I got to tell the story.
wow, can I start my class?
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. The story of yours.
Okay.
And this.
Wow. So what do you want to learn in this?
I want to call his name. Sita. Sita. I was calling Rizan.
Can I start my class, please?
Yeah.
You said you will not disturb me. You told me. You said you can do your class in the study. I will not come.
Oh. Papa, why was it
So, it happens that in very adverse situations, we talked about this earlier in the book also, like you're going through an extreme situation, when it can be an adventure sport or anything. In that also, you get that glimpse.
What's this?
It's a brush. Ruchi, need your help here. Get back to the explanation later. Yeah. The end of your life drama. In that state of acceptance and inner peace, even though you may not call it bad, can anything still come into your life that would be called bad? from a perspective of ordinary consciousness. Most of the so-called bad things that happen in people's lives are due to unconsciousness. They are self-created, or rather ego-created. I sometimes refer to those things as drama. When you are fully conscious, drama does not come into your life anymore. Let me remind you briefly how the ego operates and how it creates drama. Ego is the unobserved mind that runs your life when you're not present as the witnessing consciousness, the watcher. The ego perceives itself as a separate fragment in a hostile universe with no real inner connection to any other being, surrounded by other egos, which it either sees as a potential threat or which it will attempt to use for its own ends. The basic ego patterns are designed to combat its own deep-seated fear and a sense of lack. They are resistance, control, power, greed, defense, attack. Some of the ego's strategies are extremely clever, yet they never truly solve any of its problems simply because the ego itself is the problem. When egos come together, whether in personal relationships or in organizations or institutions, bad things happen sooner or later. Drama of one kind of another in the form of conflict, problems, power struggles, emotional or physical violence, and so on. This includes collective evils such as war, genocides, and exploitations, all due to masked unconsciousness. Furthermore, any type of illness are caused by the ego's continuous resistance, which creates restrictions and blockages in the flow of energy through the body. When you reconnect with being and are no longer run by your mind, you cease to create those things. You do not create or participate in drama anymore. Whether two or more egos come together, drama of one kind or another ensues. But even if you live totally alone, you still create your own drama. When you feel sorry for yourself, that's drama. When you feel guilty or anxious, that's drama. When you let the past or future obscure the present, you're creating time, psychological time, the stuff out of which drama is made. Whether you are not honoring the present moment by allowing it to be, you are creating drama. Most people are in love with their particular life drama. Their story is their identity. The ego runs their life. They have their whole sense of self invested in it. Even their usually unsuccessful search for an answer, a solution, or for healing becomes part of it. What they fear and resist most is the end of their drama. As long as they are their mind, what they fear and resist most is their own awakening. When you live in complete acceptance of what is, that is the end of all drama in your life. Nobody can even have an argument with you, no matter how hard he or she tries. You cannot have an argument with a fully conscious person. An argument implies identification with your mind and a mental position, as well as resistance and reaction to the other person's position. The result is that the polar opposites become mutually energized. They are the mechanics of unconsciousness. You can still make your point clearly and firmly, but there will be no reactive force behind it, no defense or attack. So it won't turn into drama. When you are fully conscious, you cease to be in conflict. No one who is at one with himself can even conceive of conflict, states A Course in Miracles. This refers not only to conflict with other people, but more fundamentally to conflict with you, which ceases when there is no longer any clash between the demands and expectations of your mind and what is. So जब ईगो का कोई ड्रामा ही नहीं होगा ना, ईगो का ड्रामा क्या है? ईगो वांट्स अटेंशन, चाहे वो पेन से मिले चाहे वो प्लेजर से मिले. और अटेंशन आपको तभी हो सकती है व्हेन यू आर नॉट इन द नाउ. सो ईदर यू हैव योर अटेंशन, you have your consciousness stuck somewhere in some past event, or you have your attention and consciousness somewhere in the future event. So science to know whether the ego is at play or the mind is at play is that you will either be in the past or you will either be in the future. You will never be in the now. अब इशू ये है कि जो एक कॉन्शियस पर्सन है, why is it that it's hard to argue or make an start an argument with a conscious person? Because the conscious person knows the fact that whatever is there in his space or anything, he will accept it as it is. अगर उसमें उसको पेन हो रही है वो भी उसके लिए ठीक है, अगर उसमें उसको प्लेजर मिल रहा है वो भी उसके लिए ठीक है. He is detached to the outcome because he is in true acceptance of what is as it is. Because वो अपना माइंड नहीं लगा रहा है किसी चीज में. बिकॉज जब आप माइंड लगाओगे ऐसे कैसे, ऐसे क्यों नहीं हो सकता, ऐसे भी तो हो सकता है, इज ऑल द माइंड एट प्ले. बट व्हेन यू आर इन ट्रू एक्सेप्टेंस एंड यू आर इन द नाउ, that means you are not letting your attention, your consciousness either go back into your past or go and wander into the future, which is totally uncertain as of now. You are in the now in total acceptance of what is, and there is no drama. ड्रामा तो तभी होगा ना हम किसी चीज के साथ एसोसिएशन बनाएंगे, ऐसे कैसे, ऐसे भी तो हो सकता था, ऐसे नहीं हो सकता, ये बेटर होना चाहिए. So wherever there is this drama at play, that means there is no acceptance. And when there is true acceptance, that means this is coming from a person who is fully conscious and is in full acceptance of what is as it is. फिर वो उसको जज नहीं करेगा, उसको कोई expectations नहीं है, and he's not comparing it to anything, either from the past or from somebody else's life, and he's not criticizing anything or complaining anything. He is in acceptance of what is as it is. I'll just share a small example. It happened with me today. So I opened my lunch box. There was sabji and roti. So somehow I felt that sabji mein namak zyada hai. I could feel that there's excess salt in it. First reaction, शायद आज बॉडी को ज्यादा सॉल्ट चाहिए होगा, थैंक यू. अर्लियर रिएक्शन, इमीडिएटली पिक अप द फोन, तूने खाना कैसा बनाया, तेरे को पता नहीं है इतना नमक नहीं डालते होते हैं, ये खाना मैं कैसे खाऊंगा. आई हैव डन दैट. आई मीन दैट्स मी. I have done that a lot of times, not once, a lot of times, and a lot of people do it. ऐसा नहीं है you don't do it. So if you don't get good food in your lunch box, you either first complain to your wife who's packed it, whoever has packed it, or you call the cook. I used to call the cook also and Ruchi also. ये क्या खाना दिया है मेरे को, मैं ऐसा खाना खाऊंगा. Today instant reaction, अच्छा शायद बॉडी को आज नमक ज्यादा लगेगा. Though I couldn't finish the full, so there was some which was left, which I told my PN to खा ले. But yeah, I mean the thought instantly came, शायद बॉडी को नमक ज्यादा पड़ेगा. Rather than reacting, there was an instant change where I tried to acknowledge the fact कि भैया मेरे खाने में नमक आज ज्यादा है, and probably associate with a thing, that a lesson to be learned कि probably the body needs more salt today. It's okay.
How long you have been
Impermanent.
practicing and ये कब से आना शुरू हुआ है?
क्या?
Change. ये change.
मैं समझा नहीं. I didn't get you, Arvind.
I mean to say, like, it's been how long that you've accepted this change? Like,
Yeah, I don't know exactly how long, but yeah, it's been 2 years on this journey. 1.5 years precisely, because lockdown के बाद ही शुरू हुआ था. So you can say 1.5 साल, 1.5 years तो हो ही गए.
I was counting my years on this.
Why get into comparison? Just chill and enjoy it.
No, I want to accept this thing. No, so that's why I was asking.
See, you can't have a choice in acceptance. I want to accept this and I don't want to accept this. Acceptance is accepting everything as it is. उसमें खाली फूड नहीं आएगा, उसमें खाली रिलेशनशिप नहीं आएगा, उसमें खाली हेल्थ नहीं आएगा. Acceptance is complete acceptance. Anything that walks into your space, you need to accept it as it is. Khali, it's not going to be, I'm going to accept just the food, but no, with my relationship.
It's not about the food. It's like there are certain things I started adopting, but there are many which I'm lacking.
You're not lacking. Why do you want to come from a premise of lack? It's not in your awareness as of now.
Right.
हम lack में क्यों जाते हैं? There's nothing. God has given us everything that we require for this journey. किसी के पास भी कोई ऐसी चीज नहीं है जो उसको चाहिए हो. It's just that either we've forgotten the path or we've lost track of what we actually are and what, the powers inside of us. So we need to realize who we truly are. So there is no lack. It is just less awareness. That will come with time. Everybody is perfect the way he or she was meant to be. So कभी भी ये ना सोचो मैं lack में हूँ या वो है. Everybody is perfect in their own spheres, the way and the lesson they are here, for the experiences they are here on the school of earth. थोड़ा सा रास्ता भूल जाते हैं, थोड़ा सा भटक जाते हैं. It's just that you need to realize a few things. That's all. Everything is there. So there is no lack. It's in abundance. Impermanence and the cycles of life. However, as long as you are in the physical dimension and linked to the collective human psyche, physical pain, although rare, is still possible. This is not to be confused with suffering, with mental emotional pain. All suffering is ego created and is due to resistance. Also, as long as you are in this dimension, you are still subject to its cyclical nature and to the law of impermanence of all things. But you no longer perceive this as bad. It just is. Through allowing the isness of all things, a deeper dimension underneath the play of opposites reveal itself to you as an abiding presence, an unchanging deep stillness, an uncaused joy beyond good and bad. This is the joy of being, the peace of God. On the level of form, there is birth and death, creation and destruction, growth and dissolution of seemingly separate forms. This is reflected everywhere in the life cycle of a star or a planet, a physical body, a tree, a flower, in the rise and fall of nations, political systems, civilizations, and in the inevitable cycles of gain and loss in the life of an individual. There are cycles of success when things come to you and thrive, and cycles of failure when they wither or disintegrate, and you have to let them go in order to make room for new things to arise or for transformation to happen. If you cling and resist at that point, it means you are refusing to go with the flow of life and you will suffer. It is not true that the up cycle is good and the down cycle bad, except in the mind's judgment. Growth is usually considered positive, but nothing can grow forever. If growth of whatever kind were to go on and on, it would eventually become monstrous and destructive. Dissolution is needed for new growth to happen. One cannot exist without the other. The down cycle is absolutely essential for spiritual realization. You must have failed deeply on some level or experienced some deep loss or pain to be drawn to the spiritual dimension. Or perhaps your very success became empty and meaningless and so turned out to be failure. Failure lies concealed in every success and success in every failure. In this world, which is to say, on the level of form, everybody fails sooner or later, of course, and every achievement eventually comes to naught. All forms are impermanent. You can still be active and enjoy manifesting and creating new forms and circumstances, but you won't be identified with them. You don't need them to give you a sense of self. They are not your life, only your life situation. Your physical energy is also subject to cycles. It cannot always be at peak. There will be times of low as well as high energy. There will be periods when you're highly active and creative, but there may also be times when everything seems stagnant, when it seems that you are not getting anywhere, not achieving anything. A cycle can last for anything from a few hours to a few years. There are large cycles and small cycles. Within these large ones, many illnesses are created through fighting against the cycles of low energy, which are vital for regeneration. The compulsion to do and the tendency to derive your sense of self-worth and identify from external factors such as achievement is an inevitable illusion as long as you are identified with the mind. This makes it hard or impossible for you to accept the low cycles and allow them to be. Thus, the intelligence of the organism may take over as a self-protective measure and create an illness in order to force you to stop so that the necessary regeneration takes place. So in life, on School of Earth, nothing is permanent. Everything changes. Everybody who comes has to go. So when you take a birth, there is death for sure. And everything happens in cycles, and that's how you realize the beauty of it. So just imagine if there is sun all the time, everybody's going to burn. It's going to be so hot. So you need the sun sometimes, you need some windy sometimes, you need some rain sometimes. So, it's a mix and match. The rainbow looks good if it's all colors. And if it's a single color, it'll have a impact up to a certain limit. So it will not be a complete rainbow. But a rainbow is, in itself complete, the full complete Vibgyor, which has its own set of likings, dislikings. It's just so beautiful. बट हाँ, हर एक चीज के साइकिल्स होते हैं, जो ऊपर जाएगा वो नीचे आएगा, जो नीचे आएगा वो ऊपर आएगा. सो लाइफ इज नॉट always a roller coaster, but yeah, it's not always on one direction. So you will have your good days, you will have your bad days, you will have days where you are enjoying whatever is there. Some days or some part of the days where you also get to that low zone and try to and don't make a conscious effort to get yourself out of it, and dwell on it more. Now, the whole issue or the concept is everything starts with the thought. जब आपको कोई थॉट आती है, अगर वो तो नेगेटिव है या पॉजिटिव है, डिपेंड्स ऑन योर एसोसिएशन विद दैट थॉट. बट अगर आपने उस पॉजिटिव या नेगेटिव थॉट, वॉट एवर योर माइंड इज परसीविंग, उसको जो एनर्जीज दे दी, जिस थॉट को आपने एनर्जीज दे दी, that is ultimately going to sooner or later penetrate into your being and get you to in that action which matches with that thought. So it's very important कि हम किस thought को energy दे रहे हैं. So when you are in total acceptance of what is, तो हर एक thought में आप you will be absolutely neutral with it. But there will be times where you will be attracting the positive thoughts, and there will be time that you will be also drained out of your energy and attracting. It's absolutely okay, because you need to be in total acceptance of what is. अच्छा आ गया तो भी बढ़िया है, बुरा आ गया तो भी बढ़िया है, कुछ तो सिखाने आया ना. So it's not कि everybody has their good or everybody has their bad. Everybody has a mixed rainbow running. So if I'm doing this book reading, it's not key. If I'm giving my examples, I don't have bad ones. I don't share bad ones. I don't want to be a bad influence on you guys. So I don't share my bad ones. It's not कि मेरे होते नहीं हैं. I do share a few bad ones also. But yeah, it's okay. Everything is a part of it. We are in total acceptance of what we are and whatever is coming in our space. Bas. Accept each and everything as it is. Accept the isness of life, the isness of being. The cyclical nature of the universe is closely linked with the impermanence of all things and situations. The Buddha made this a central part of his teachings. All conditions are highly unstable and in constant flux, or as he put it, impermanence is a characteristic of every condition, every situation you will ever encounter in your life. It will change, disappear, or no longer satisfy you. Impermanence is also central to Jesus's teachings. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust consume and where thieves break in and steal. As long as a condition is judged as good by your mind, whether it be a relationship, a possession, a social role, a place, or your physical body, the mind attaches itself to it and identifies with it. It makes you happy, makes you feel good about yourself, and it may become part of who you are or think you are. But nothing lasts in this dimension where moth and rust consume. Either it ends or it changes, or it may undergo a polarity shift. The same condition that was good yesterday or last year has suddenly or gradually turned into bad. The same condition that made you happy then makes you unhappy. The prosperity of today becomes the empty consumerism of tomorrow. The happy wedding and honeymoon became the unhappy divorce or the unhappy coexistence. Or a condition disappears, so its absence makes you unhappy. When a condition or situation that the mind has attached itself and identified with changes or disappears, the mind cannot accept it. It will cling to the disappearing condition and resist the change. It is almost as if a limb were being torn off your body. We sometimes hear of people who have lost all their money or whose reputation has been ruined committing suicide. Those are the extreme cases. Others, whenever a major loss of one kind or another occurs, just become deeply unhappy or make themselves ill. They cannot distinguish between their life and their life situation. I recently read about a famous actress who died in her 80s. As her beauty started to fade and become ravaged by old age, she grew desperately unhappy and became a recluse. She too had identified with the condition, her external appearance. First, the condition gave her a happy sense of self, then an unhappy one. If she had been able to connect with the formless and timeless life within, she could have watched and allowed the fading of her external form from a place of serenity and peace. Moreover, her external form would have become increasingly transparent to the light shining through from her ageless true nature. So her beauty would not really have faded, but simply become transformed into spiritual beauty. However, nobody told her that this is possible. The most essential kind of knowledge is not yet widely accessible. So जब भी हम किसी condition based need पे चलते हैं, so we need to realize and be in acceptance that nothing is permanent. Nothing is permanent. Not everything will change. Everything will, take a different shape, including you, your emotions, your journey, each and everything. There is nothing which is permanent that is going to remain the way it is. But we need to realize that we need to work on ourselves, and we need to be in that space where we allow things to be and acknowledge and accept what is as it is.